Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live MBS Highway webinar. Today's guest, she has over 30 years experience within the mortgage realm. She's won numerous awards. She's been featured in multiple magazine articles. She's a four-time best-selling author. She's a speaker who has graced the stages with people like Gary Vaynerchuk. She is the founder of 2020 Vision for Success Coaching, which is the largest consulting firm in the American banking and brokering industry. And she's also the founder of the Vision and Women with Vision magazine. And today she will be helping us understand how to leverage our ecosystems to reach peak performance. Join me in welcoming Christine Beckwith.
Yay.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, it's really good to have you here. It's really good to have you here, my good friend. I'm excited to talk with you today because you always bring so much value. But Christine, right now, it is a market that people are struggling with. And I know that you coach a lot of folks that are having big success in this marketplace. So where I really would like to start is, can you share with us a few of the things that you're seeing from your clients? Obviously, you're helping them quite a bit as well, but what is working for people in this market, or what are they doing to continue to have success, even though interest rates are 2% higher, even though inventory is tight, even though there's more competition for purchases because the refinance market is off 75%. What are you seeing that's winning and working right now?
Yeah. So probably November, December of last year, as soon as the market where we realized the rates were going to continue to rise, there's a consumer, as you know, I mean, I'm telling you nothing that you don't already know, but there's a consumer processing of, oh, okay, this is here to stay. And as that regulates, our veteran LOs have been here before, but there's a lot of new LOs that have come in the last 3 or 4 years. And this is more of a normal market than the past 3 years market has been. And so all our top producers have made this shift, and they are, I'm telling you right now, producing really high levels, really, really well. And they're coming in and sharing what they've done. And that is leading with very direct digital strategies that are weeding out your payoff, pay down consumer. We don't want that guy. That was last year's guy. We want to speak directly to the people that want to manufacture their equity out of their homes, who want to focus on cash out, not unlike every presentation you've ever done, Barry, that shows that theory through calculation. But really, even beyond that, which is the mining of equity. And so, listen, there's 38 trillion, I think was the recent number of equity sitting out there. We got on our hands and knees and we prayed for this market in 06, 07, and 08, which everyone wants to compare it to. And there was no equity. And now we're sitting on a mountain powder keg of it. But we're still trying to serve, often a guy that's asking about rates or that. There's a lot of people out there that lowered their term, lowered their rate last year, and they might feel silly saying, well, now I want to, extend my term back out, or I'm willing to take that higher interest rate to grab the equity because it makes financial sense, even when they don't have debt. And so I said, lead with that. Where are my people that want to talk about wealth? The number one vehicle to wealth is real estate in the world. We're sitting on a powder keg of equity. Who wants to talk to me, have a free consultation right now about what you could be doing with your equity? What are you doing with your equity? And so because they are getting direct and they're not being shy about the fact that we're in a higher interest rate environment, they're not attracting that phone call. Because, by the way, that's going to waste a lot of your time this year. You're going to spend a lot of time with those people. And I've said, look at your data, look at your CRMs, not for rate this year, but LTV, and get direct in that strategy. And you know what's happening is they're starting to have a lot of conversations about equity because they're finally letting go of where they were and they're embracing where they are instead. And now they're getting a lot of those conversations.
So on the one hand, we're still seeing a lot of the activity going into those cash out refinances of the ones that are being done. So refinances are down 75%, but more than 80% of the refinances that are being done are cash out refinances. So Yes, and thank you for pointing that out, Christine. We've talked about that in our presentations and how you could use the debt consolidation tool that our MBS Highway subscribers have access to, which is great. So what about on the purchase side, though? What are you seeing on the purchase side that is happening right now in this highly competitive market where it can be discouraging to customers or whether it can be more competitive? So what's winning and working?
Yeah. So, I mean, the play for real estate this year is multifaceted. Number one, we all recognize that there's an inventory issue. And so, clearly, I call it bring the bread to the table strategy. And it's a long play strategy, but basically realtors they need help finding inventory. There's a lot of pandemic effect to selling right now, meaning a lot of people, in March 2020 that were thinking of selling, now suddenly their home became their shelter. Well, they've been living in that shelter. It's been their kids' school. It's been their businesses for 3 years. The house is maybe not even showing as well as it once was. Although I would argue everybody did home improvements sitting in these shelters. That said, there's that. And I think that is curing to some level. Obviously, the builders market is very active, even though there's a high cost for product for building. It's coming along and it's picking up speed. You see development all over the country in areas that have been stagnant for many, many years. And so how do you play into your relationship with your realtors? Well, again, there's two things. Number one, I've been leading with education, even in my prior company. And then now with 2020, we offer a number of real estate education that our people that are consulting with us can invite their realtors to monthly that help the realtors. But why not get out there in front of it and say, call me if you're thinking of selling? And why would you say that as a mortgage originator? Because I think we can do a good job of massaging and warming that conversation up for the realtor and then bringing that bread to the table, because that's a lot. That is, I think, much more appreciated by a realtor than bringing another first-time home buyer or bringing another home buyer, which is bringing another mouth to a table that already doesn't have enough food. And so originators that are really wanting that immediate reciprocation are asking objectively, well, wait a minute, if I'm helping them find sellers, how does that help me? Because I'm giving away a transaction that maybe I'm not getting a mortgage out of. And the answer is it helps all of us in this industry. It strengthens your relationship with the realtor. It makes you look smart because it makes you look like you know what you're doing to help be a really good partner. I have been saying to everybody, stop cold calling realtors, please stop. Nobody wants to hear from you. We've been gone for 3 years doing refis. Now we're all showing up and saying, help me. Forget about helping me, help them. Like right now, the play is to help the realtor and to lead with education, be a good partner. It is a long play, but that's business. Business doesn't look like overnight success for any of us, not long-term career originators. It looks like being able to lean in and solve to market problems. And these are some of the problems. I know realtors that are really appreciating this conversation and they are reciprocating as a result of having meaningful, smart, wise, and mature conversations about this market instead of knocking on the door with your hand out on a promise of good service and competitive rate.
So I really like that because there's a time where bringing a potential qualified buyer to the table is of great value, but maybe not as much now. However, bringing a listing to the table in this environment where inventory is so scarce can be of great value to that realtor and hopefully create that bond and that relationship where they'll want to make sure that they continue to work with you in a positive way. And when those transactions come around, that they keep you in mind, in the forefront of their mind. So I love this strategy. Now, tell me, because you mentioned it quickly, you said, okay, ask your current customer base, are you looking to sell? Is there a specific strategy? Is there a campaign? Is there anything that you're doing or looking at? Is it in tune with seeing if they want to tap into the equity of their home, or maybe if they're not looking to tap into the equity of their home to do a cash out refi and consolidate debt, maybe, okay, so you're going to stay there, you don't want to tap into it. Are you thinking of maybe moving someplace? Is that, how would you go about that strategy?
Yeah, we're literally creating postables here. We use Lightspeed VT, our software, to deliver our training. And we have the ability to load social media postings for all of our students. And so we're creating the dialogue graphics that actually say, were you thinking of selling pre-pandemic, but held your house for shelter? That's one. If you're thinking again, give us a call. Let us talk to you about why it makes sense. We have direct strategies like, is the objection that's keeping you from selling is buying high. Let us talk to you about why, what are your options to sell high and capitalize. Let's talk about capital gain tax, which you have a 24-month period to adhere to. Let's talk about possibly renting through that period, which might help us dissipate a little bit of this bubble, this small bubble. So listen, I don't want to turn all the loan originators that are consulting here into Barry Habibs. I tell them to come to MBS Highway and get their education. I don't need to say that, but I do say that. What I say is to be a good mortgage pro, and I'm an old mortgage pro, is we have to understand the economy of this environment. And it has shifted so fundamentally. And we've been here before, right? If you've been around, we've been here before. And so the conversation just has to be real. And so raise your hand, in your digital strategy is asking people that are following you, if they were thinking of selling, what if we could explain to them why it benefits them to sell right now, and help them overcome some of these objections. There's so many, and I have classes where we're walking way down the rabbit's hole of the objections, because one overcoming of an objection from a potential seller like buying high leads to the next overcoming of the objection, which is the financial impact, the tax impact, and then kind of like unraveling it as you go. Unfortunately, homeowners by and large don't think of their properties necessarily as investment. That isn't me dissing the American population of homeownership. I'm just telling you, most people are living in them for shelter. There's a portion that thinks of it as an investment vehicle. This is our grandiose opportunity this year to be the educators that help people understand what they're sitting on. If you own Dunkin' Donuts stock, and I convinced you to buy it at $25 a share, and it was suddenly worth $100 a share, I would be saying sell, sell, sell. And if not selling, I would be saying liquidate some of it and grab some of that cash before it falls. And so like the whole point with that is the ability to obviously capitalize on the market that we're in.
So Christine, one of the things that people are trying to tap into is to broaden their scope of potential buyers out there as well, right? Or qualified buyers. And that brings up non-QM situations. And non-QM, you have a broader scope on both credit as well as qualifying ratios. But also with non-QM comes an interest rate that's going to be, I don't know, let's call it 200 basis points higher. So if there is a loan that, you'd have in the 5s today, normally you might be in the 7% range, and people look at that and they may just run the other direction immediately. Now, I have some thoughts on this that I'd like to share, but are you seeing this and are you coaching people as to how to approach this?
Yeah, 100%. I think that in, buying strategies right now, we have to remind people that there's been a relaxing of the guidelines in the past. A lot of people don't even realize the flexibility of the non-QM product that is out there. But again, we've got to go back to, there's still a lot of consumer ineptness in homeownership. I mean, our grandparents have warned us off for years of paying points, has warned us off of, the mortgage industry by and large in certain areas with higher interest rates. And so the minute the rate comes up, it's even interesting from a mortgage perspective, because we should be educated to understand why that's happening at a higher level and accepting of it and defensive of it, I would even argue. And I think that one of the things that's happening, Barry, is that we have to explain risk-based pricing. In 07, 08, when the government regulated loan officer compensation, they leveled the playing field in the ability for us to face the consumer and say, we are not gouging you any longer from a price set. And while there's some mythology to that today, many years later, by and large, that is the truth. And we're able to get behind that guideline and say to the consumer, we have a higher interest rate right now. However, in perspective of the entire last 40-year market, we are at the bottom of the barrel rate wise still. It is a great time to buy. We don't know what necessarily the far off future holds, but we have product that's available to you that has flexibility, and you can get in with this flexibility on a risk-based assessment that is equal, meaning this is how we're regulated nationally. So the guy that's buying in California and buying in Boston essentially is going to be within a realm of pricing that's similar. And that is different than all markets prior to 2007, because that's not how we price. We price back then on our own pockets and some risk-based. So if you can say that, if you can explain that to the consumer, I think you can get to a real trust level to be able to, get a buyer into a place where they're comfortable.
Yeah. And, one of the things that we try and teach is within MBS Highway, those that are listening to this, they'll have access to the Biverse rent tool. So, the way that we look at it is if you're thinking about purchasing a home, or you have to live somewhere, right? So we know that one option maybe is to live with mom and dad, but that might not be the best option. So renting or purchasing are two viable ways to go. Now new rents are going up. I think the most recent statistic was on new rents about 17%, but the renewals are probably in the range of about 8% because the blended figure is like 13% year over year renewal rent increase. So that's 8% every single year. And even if you're a market where it's a little bit less, 4 or 5 or 6%, that's every single year, right? So purchasing, if you were to purchase a home, and if you were to purchase a home with 7 or 7.25, let's say 7.5% mortgage rate, well, that might not be the best rate that's available if you were able to qualify for an A loan. Doing the analysis, not based upon perfect, but based upon what are my options, what are my choices, because life's about making the best choice. So if you say, oh, it's 7.25 or 7.5 sounds so bad, I'm just not going to do it, I'll rent. Well, is renting still a better choice? And when you do the math on it, when you put it in our tool, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the market you're in, because of appreciation, because of amortization. Then obviously, when you take a look at those rental increases, it mitigates the difference between buying and renting in payments over time. So it becomes evident to the individual that while they wish they could get that rate that was 1.5 or 2% lower, because they can't, does that mean that, well, now I'm going to be, like sour grapes, even though making sense to purchase? Because by showing them the evidence that it could be several tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands better to buy, you can do a lot more non-QM loans. And then obviously, if they get themselves in a better place in a couple of years from now, that's another refinance opportunity for you. Rates are going to come down anyway. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that all the people that are with MBS have the ability to do this calculator and then illustrate that, I would be doing those every single time. And I also think that these buyers right now need to also have an education and even homeowners right now on the average length of a mortgage hold, meaning, how a mortgage note. The average length of the mortgage note is somewhere between 32 months, they say, and 36 months over the last 30 years. I mean, if you ask somebody that's had their house for 10 years, how many times they've refinanced, they're, 80% of the time, the number's like 82% of the time, they're literally going to be saying 3 times. And so all bets are off with, all our analysis has to look at the length they're likely to hold the note, because it completely changes your sales pitch when you understand some of the objections that they will throw at you that are term-based objections. When you shorten, let's talk about people that are increasing their principal, taking equity out in a no debt situation, and maybe they're taking this cash because we're telling them that it's a good time to take this cash. Well, they start to talk about that small payment, even when you have a payment that's going up, and you got to talk about what that payment increase looks like for the cured amount of time that you have the mortgage note, not for a 30-year term. And so you got to get really smart right now, like with this conversation, and it's got to make a lot of sense. And you've got to come with your history lesson, because I think that's going to really give them the confidence to understand the relativity of what they're doing. and the timing of what they're doing. So but it's a whole different conversation, right, Barry? It's not what we were talking about last year.
No, I think this market has definitely shifted. And I love kind of a major theme that both of you guys have brought up in this call today is understanding those pain points. And those pain points are what has shifted because the market has shifted. And so it's a change in that conversation.
Yep.
And Christine, I just want to say one thought that came to my mind when you were talking about how you're creating that social content to, bring up those pain points. Did you not sell, because you were holding your home as a shelter during that time period? And then extending that and going into those, what popped up into my head that I think could be a really great tactic for people is social stories, because oftentimes on posts, I think sometimes people don't want to communicate and get extremely open in things. But on stories, it's not publicly shared. So I think it would be, great if you guys want to use what Christine has been saying to create social stories and have people vote on your social story. Did you put off selling your home during this time period? Have them vote, go into a new pain point. And that way, you're building a list of potential leads that you can ultimately reach out and have a conversation with.
Absolutely, 1,000%. And I'm tuning into that stuff. My eyes are in tune to that stuff when I'm looking around. I mean, I'm paying more attention to what Barry's saying and other economists than I ever have been. I've always been listening. It's our second class in the 2020 dashboard tells everybody to sign up for MBS Highway and get economically educated. And it's a foundational part of the core curriculum here that they get certified in, because we believe that. That's not a selling tactic. I think if you haven't learned economics as a mortgage expert, this market this year is forcing you to get more educated. I think this is healthy for our mortgage originator. We're going to have future recessive, markets again, and we'll reap that benefit and throw our fish bowls in the barrel again, and our nets in there, and we'll go back. It's cyclical, right? We go back and forth. But if you don't learn this market, if you die in this market, I'm going to say this, and I say it, kind of toughly to the people following me in my company. I don't want to see you fail in this market, because if you fail in this market, you're pretty much saying you can't do this job. This is the market you've got to step up to and be able to show that you can do it. And by the way, it means that you got to hike a little bit. I just did my weekly sales call, and it's my best attended, meeting of the week. And I did it on a book from Gino Wickman called Traction. And one of the greatest messages he has in there is a chapter called Get a Grip. And that's what this market message really is you got to get a grip. It talks about getting your database, marketing your database, understanding your vision. But truly, like, understanding what you shouldn't be doing. So much time is being wasted by originators this year on things they shouldn't be doing, and things that I think feel desperate to return to where we were last year and are just the wrong path. And I'm just not going to, I'm not going to promote those things. I think they really have to understand this market, and they have to solicit for that market, social stories. They have to ask for the people and conversations that need to be had this year.
So I wanted to just to go a little bit deeper, Megan, on what you said, because, both you and Christine, as well as myself, we understand, when you do that social story and then you do the polling and you ask the questions to find out. But if somebody's listening and they'd like to say, well, that sounded pretty good, what do I do? How do I do it? Can you just very much Reader Digest version, just kind of
Yeah,
that for someone?
Essentially, and I'm looking down right now because I'm going to do it step by step when I look at my phone right now. So you guys look at your phone right now. I'm going to go to Instagram. You can go to Facebook, but right away, when you pull it up, you're going to see these little bubbles up here at the top, and those are stories. And right next to that, you will see a plus button up here. You're just going to hit the plus button, click on stories. Now you can take a picture, whatever you want. You take a picture, and then what you're going to do is you're going to click on the little, should really take my blur setting off for this. There's a little post-it note with a smiley face. You can click on that, and there's all different ones. You can do like a quiz, a poll. And so that's where you can ask those questions. And, I always think that you should ask the questions that are related to really get in the mindset of what that individual is going through. So, Christine mentioned the fact, did you want to sell your home prior to the pandemic, but you sat on it for shelter? Great. That could be a question that you ask. It could simply be, are you looking to sell your home? Are you curious about selling your home? Do you want to know what your home's worth? All these different questions, and that will allow people to vote in kind of what feels more secret to them, because it's not public. Like if you made a post about it, I'd have to go type a comment, or I could send you a direct message, but they can do it right here in a way that feels a little bit more safe to be vulnerable and open up. And so then from there, once you get people voting on it, obviously if they said, yeah, I wanted to sell my house, but I sat on it, reach out to them and continue down that conversation, just like Christine was talking about. And a big part of this is just listening for what those pain points are and having the knowledge and the confidence, with which Christine touched on as well. You have to have the confidence to be able to have these conversations. And I agree with you guys. I think that going through this in the market right now is fantastic for all of us, because it's so easy, and it's almost human nature to sit stagnant and be comfortable. And I think a lot of us, for a long time period, when deals were easy, they were coming in, we were stagnant. We were so busy, we didn't have the time or, the willingness to want to go out there and learn these different things about the market and really understand them. We would tiptoe around all of these hard questions. You can't tiptoe any longer. You got to dive in and you got to get that knowledge.
Megan,
Yes, amen.
Megan, that's so good. So Christine, I want to go a little deeper on something with you, because you're brilliant as a coach, and you're just amazing throughout your mortgage career, and you've helped so many people, but it goes a lot deeper than that. Between the books you've written, and I've seen it firsthand where people have told me how much you have changed their life and saved their life in some cases. And, Christine, you've done so much work in helping women and really helping all of us, but in helping women. And I just want to touch on that a minute, because it wouldn't be right if we didn't take a moment here to go over that. And what are you seeing, and maybe what are some thoughts or ideas? Just you've done so much in women's safety. I think it's important that we just bring that up, because, we see stories about what happens, with realtors on listings and vulnerable situations. I just think it's an important thing, because you've been such a leader and such a hero here. But, first of all, thank you for all the good you do. But I want to just bring that up and ask you to get some of your thoughts.
Well, wow, I'm really touched that you're even asking this question. I think it's wonderful, and I don't mind sharing. So when I started in the mortgage industry at 18 years old, I had this short little 90-pound chick that was in the teller window next to me. Well, she would be abducted and murdered my first year in the banking industry. Fast forward 30 years later, our chief compliance officer at Annie Mac, Colleen Brownell, out of Collingswood, New Jersey, was murdered in a double homicide. And so I've had the unfortunate situation of having two of my colleagues that are very close to me have meet tragic ends to their lives. And then I had the ability, obviously, through my career to become an author and to write. And in the process of doing so, and being a traveling female executive and thwarting my own situations at times traveling, that I just realized when Colleen was murdered in the winter of 2017, that I really needed to do something. And I think I just felt antsy about it. And it would lead to me writing a book called Clear Boundaries. And that actually led to me and Barry having we were already connected, but we had a different connection because we had somebody that were nameless that thwarted a violent situation using a tactic from my book. And actually said something at a convention to Barry about it. And then he introduced this lady to me. And I have to tell you, we're connected forever. So, I've had the great opportunity, like anything. What do we do with our careers? This is my legacy years. You're all witnessing the swan song of my career this decade. I'm giving back. I decided to retire into consulting. Some retirement. I think I'm working twice as many hours as I was before. And I'm a writer and I love to write. And that was one of my books. So thank you for mentioning that. I just, I don't know that I've ever considered myself a woman libist. I don't mind saying this. I really haven't. I would be lying if I said otherwise. What I have done is been a realist. And it's undeniable that, in sales, the women are outranked by the men. And for me, it was very small. As an executive, I was a 1% female executive in the industry. Today, female executives make up 6%. So it's grown tremendously in 35 years. But I have a coaching division called Women with Vision. I think everybody knows. And our number one goal is not advocacy. It is having great results. We want to have great businesses. So I'm helping women actually, have profitable, sovereign, strong businesses so that they can say we are contributing. We don't necessarily need to have 9 women at the boardroom table to the 9 men. We just, if we earn the seat, would like the seat. We also don't want you to put us there out of meeting some sort of quota. No, thanks. We want to be there because we earned our way to that seat. And so that is a part of 2020 vision for success coaching. I will tell you there's 72% males here, which is still our 28% women is the biggest number of women coaching anywhere under a consulting group. So we just have attracted tons of really incredible women to our organization. So it's part of our story. Thank you for asking. Really proud of the work we're doing in that area.
And as you should be, by the way, as you should be. I'm so proud to be your friend. You're a good friend. And Megan, that, by the way, that was really great advice, which you gave. I love that. And I love that, and I'm seeing some really nice comments, Vince, and so many others that I'm seeing come up on here. So great stuff. And Janet just asked in the chat window about your coaching. I want to talk about that just in a minute, but first, you've got a very exciting event coming up in just about 5 weeks.
Yep.
And I'd love for you to talk about that. I'm very proud that I will be speaking at that event. It's such a good event. It's such a good vibe. Megan has spoken at the event. I believe Megan's going to be there as well at the event this year too. So could you just talk about that just for a minute? And then I want to talk about your coaching really quick as well.
Okay. Yeah, so we're having our annual convention for our 2020 Vision Coaching. It is called the Vision Summit. We took the leap of faith year one in our initial business plan, and we kind of looked at our competition, and we looked at what they did, and we looked at other entities that provide education in our space. And the one big prevailing thing was face-to-face events, which was really important. We had 1 year we didn't do it, which was 2020 due to pandemic, of course, but this will be our third. Hundreds of people come to Tampa, Florida, to the Water Street Marriott. By the way, Barry was the person that helped us find the location year one. We're still having it there because it's magnificent. It's very classy. It's very high end. I would say our event is very high end. You're well fed. It is a Las Vegas show. When you get in your seat, it is magnificent. This year's theme is the Eco Vision. What's going on in your universe? We're going to bring 8 keynote speakers to the stage this year. Barry is going to be one of the biggest ones there. Les Brown is coming. We have surprises. We have health and wellness coaches, experts. It's going to be motivational. It is set up in a planetarium style event. So when you enter the grand ballroom, be ready for a 3D unbelievable experience. There's usually somewhere between 15 and 20 AV people running the show in the back. The night before we kick off with this incredible reception, and we actually celebrate this year's winners of the Women with Vision Award. Megan is going to be running the media booth for both MBS Highway and 2020. So she'll be interviewing all the keynotes as they come off the stage, all the winners. And it's just a magnificent event. This year we extended it to have a women's luncheon the day before. We're bringing to the stage some of the authors from the book Win or Learn, which I am a co-author in, with some workshop lessons. So it's going to be great. You can check that out.
Couple of things just to mention. So one is this is open to anybody. You don't have to be part of your coaching program. And two, while it definitely can help women, this is open to men and women. I think men get so much out of it as well. If I wasn't mistaken, just eyeballing it, yeah, a pretty even split between men and women at your event. So, a great event for everyone. But there are going to be some wonderful keynote speakers that I always enjoy listening to. You've got that great gala event too. There's great networking, and I will attest to the fact that it is done first class. It really is. It's an immersive event. Can you tell us a little bit about the coaching program that you have? please.
Yeah, so 2020 Vision for Success Coaching and Consulting today has 60 employees, 24 executive coaches. We have 3 silos of coaching we do, and you can have an all access pass when you join us, which is we have virtual gamified certification with leveling that gets reward and recognition if that's your vibe, and it's great, and it's certainly very meaningful education. We have live collegiate level symposium and classes going on, even certifications during the week, like a college campus on a virtual global level, taught by dozens of instructors. And then we have one-on-one features as well. I mean, our area of expertise is mortgage and real estate. We do everything from financial forensics. We literally consult the books of some of the biggest banks. And that's what we do for some. We're watching their books. We create reporting systems for other companies. For other individuals, we're helping them increase their sales or scale. Some people were helping them downsize. So, and we have a lot of outlier things as well. We have health and wellness, grief counselors, divorce counselors, like you name it. We're kind of the Walt Disney world of professional development. And it's just like eating off a buffet of what you want and what you need. And we're hoping we're making a significant difference in the industry.
You definitely are. I went ahead and posted the link for her coaching in the chat box. You guys can find that. I also posted a link to the event that Barry and everyone on this call will be at June 28th, 29th in Tampa. And use that link because you can get $100 off by using that link. Come see us, come stop at the media booth. I would love to do a little live with each and every one of you. So come say hello. And, with that, I just want to say, thank you both for being on this call. And Christine, I love that you're in your legacy years. I love being a part of this. I love getting to learn from each and every one of you. And I want to just thank everyone. Thank you guys for taking your time. Thank you everyone for tuning into today's call. There's been a lot of questions about getting the recording. You will get the recording. So hang tight and it will be in your email.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, guys. We love you, Christine. Thanks,
Thank
Megan.
you, everyone out there. Take care.
Hey, thank you to everybody who took your valuable time to tune in with us for these past 35, 40 minutes. We love you and we appreciate you more than words can say. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys.